So we're here talking about the mix a little bit. Talked about a few of the different instruments as we went, kind of mixing as we go, but go through it a little more now. So the first thing we mix is the drums. Get the foundation for the whole song with the drums, get them sounding good, and then everything else will fall into place around those. So I already have them mixed down, but I can show you some of what we used on them. So the drums are all samples recorded on V-drums like we showed you earlier. Using Superior Drummer for the majority of the drums. And also used a bit of slate drums for the kick and snare. Stephen Slate. In terms of processing and mixing, various plugins and EQ, compression, reverb, all the usual shit like that. And then I kind of group things together and do a little more processing, do a little bit of parallel compression on the kick, snare, and toms with Rocket compressor. Yeah, that's drums. Next up we get rhythm guitar in there. So there's the guitars. So those were tracked with my Axe effects and Black Machine guitar with bare knuckle pickups. Then they were reamped by Mark at Audio Hammer Studios through a 5153 and a Mesa cab. In terms of processing on those, we've got just some EQ and a little bit of multi-band compression to tame some of the low-end woofiness. A little bit of extra EQ and then an EQ. Get the bass in there. There's the bass soloed. So the bass is a mixture of a few different tracks. Got a DI track, direct in track that's kind of supporting the low end. Then we've got a distorted track that's from the Axe effects that's supplying the high end grit and some of the mid-range to help the bass cut through and be heard on systems with less bass and headphones and things like that. We'll bring in some of the keys. So there's lots of tracks of keys. We look at all the tracks. Sometimes there's 20, 30 tracks going at once. Don't do much to the keys in terms of processing, just a little bit of EQ. Usually they're pre-processed already. So then we have leads, similar to guitars, but they're recorded all with Axe effects. So are all the clean guitars, they're also done just with the Axe effects. And then we got the vocals. So the vocals are recorded at the Outhouse with Grant Howard. And we used SM7B into a Chandler TG2 mic pre, the Avalon compressor. And then further processing from there, they each get a compressor and an EQ on the group, and each track gets a compressor and a de-esser insert. In terms of the group, I mix the back-up Vox and the lead Vox a little differently, and they both have a bunch of effect sends that I can switch in and out, reverb, delay, doubler, chorus, that are flying in at different times. Lots of automation as well, so I might manually turn up a reverb at a certain part or do a fade on an effect, that kind of thing. Lots of stuff like that. And so here's everything. So a little look at the mastering chain. This is a new project now where I've taken the mix down, and mastering is obviously putting the processing on that. So this is my chain here. I've got compression, multi-band compressor that I'm using to expand the low end a little bit. Equalizer, linear phase equalizer. Fatso, which is I'm using for saturation, so a little bit of distortion in the mids to make it seem louder and punchier. It's a tape simulator. Pretty cool plugin. Ozone I'm using for limiter, dithering, and a little bit of harmonic exciter on the high end, sparkle. And then another limiter chained in there for a little bit more level. So I can kind of see where my level is sitting on here as well. So minus 8.5 to 9.5 RMS kind of range, otherwise it starts sounding like shit. And yeah, I like to mix through these processors towards the end of the mix. I start auditioning the mix with these processors on so I can hear what they're doing to the mix and make any adjustments if needed. Find that things like the kick and snare get a little bit squashed from the limiting, so you might have to bring them up. Guitars and vocals might seem a little louder after the limiting, so you can experiment with that and make any adjustments you might have to do.